Hey, it's Katie Moran. Welcome to Artistic Spirit. Today I'm here with Rebecca Nesbit, the founder of the CEO Crowd, a community of business owners with real women vibes, a safe space online for entrepreneurs to connect, collaborate, and promote. With 10 plus years in coaching, including careers, life, relationships, sales, and business, Rebecca has a wealth of knowledge as a facilitator. In a nutshell, her business, the CEO Crowd, helps you connect to yourself, your purpose, and your business besties to make your dreams become a reality. Welcome today, Rebecca.
Well, thank you for reading that bio. I feel very grateful to be here, Katie.
Yeah, I think something that is so interesting about what you're doing is this idea that business is art within itself. So, how can business owners have a creative life that's fulfilling, and also like how can they run their business like an art form?
Oh. That's such a great question. And I think that a big part of it comes from working with, and I know this is something that you're very aligned with too, Katie, is working with heart-centered people.
Hmm.
And I believe that when you really do have your heart and your soul in your business, it is a creative pursuit. I also feel like I work with female entrepreneurs, which elicits not to be gender specific, but it elicits more of that feminine energy vibe, that creative vibe. So I do believe that there is a tie-in when you're looking at feminine energy and you're looking at flow, because something that business owners typically want a lot of is flow. And you
Hmm.
need that feminine energy and those creative pursuits to be able to then flow within your business too. And I think that this comes down to, I don't love to use this word, but it comes down to your version of what balance means to you, or what that particular work-life rhythm looks like to you. People have lots of different terminology for how to essentially have your cup filled, also do your job, take care of your friends and your family, whatever that looks like to you, and pulling in your creativity. And I think that everyone has such a different version of that within themselves. Some
Hmm.
of our entrepreneurs, if they speak, that is their most creative expression. That's where they really thrive. So it's how do you then align your business with your speaking? Some of them are the most wonderful writers, but they love to be introverted. And you think, okay,
Hmm.
writing is your creative aspect that you're bringing in. So, how do we showcase that to the world and give you the business that you're looking for? So, I think that to answer your question in a nutshell, would be I think that entrepreneurs have to consider alignment when
Hmm.
they're looking at their businesses. Does this business align with my creativity? And I think that that starts with working out what that is. So if
Hmm.
someone's working that out, they're clearly in the right place with your podcast.
Yeah, that's so true. I love this idea of like equanimity in what you're doing, and that kind of like to see if you're in alignment, like you will find flow, and that'll be a big part of your day to day. So I'm curious, when someone's working with you, what is like their usual kind of like day to day, kind of like the problem that you're looking to solve? And then like, what does that look like after working with you? Like, how is it different? And like, what is the day to day? And maybe you can kind of like make a clear image for someone to put on their vision board.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the day to day is hustle. It's very much
Mm,
hustle culture. It's that
mm,
to get kind of more into the masculine, feminine energies that are not gender specific, but to get more into that, I think that a lot of us, the vision that we have of an empowered woman is a man. And
mm,
I think that that forces us, specifically with the people that I work with, because I only work with women, I think that that then forces us into this, I have to do all the things. And creativity can't thrive without space. It needs space. It needs time to develop it needs space to grow into. And if you start to take that away, then it just becomes the never-ending to-do list. And that's when we're just very insular and we kind of start cutting off all of the other things. So we think, I have energy for my business, maybe some of my family, not all of my family, and to take care of myself, maybe to a degree. And that's all we can give our energy to because we're kind of seeing online that business has to be hard. It has to be all or nothing. It's, the lion background of like work hard, sleep less.
Mhm.
And that gives no space for creativity because that's just do, do, do. And I believe that creativity comes from being. It doesn't come from so much doing. Yes, there is a doing aspect, but you'll find your innate creativity through being and trying things that you're interested in. And that's where alignment comes in. So, to give you a picture of when people start working with me, they're very much in this hustle culture place. They've been trying to find this idea of balance and they're sick of doing it alone because they know that that's not working for them. So they want to invite more people into their space so that they can be inspired and so that they can essentially bounce off of other people's creativity, their creative ideas, their creative outlets. And that's what we do within our space at the CEO crowd is that we give people that community and community in a non-hierarchical structure. So we're all very much used to communities being run in a very similar hustle culture way. There is the coach, the person that's kind of at the top of the food chain, and then everyone else is underneath that. And there's one person you go to for your advice. They maybe put on master classes with their friends to upsell their programs, and then you go to them and you listen to again that person at the top. And it doesn't give space for everyone's creativity and for conversation. It just has this idea of this one person is right. So I think that starts to zap the creativity out of people too, is that when we
Mhm.
just listen to one person and we just follow exactly what they're saying, that person is a different person from you. And what we do in the CEO crowd is we take away the hierarchical structure. I don't claim to tell anyone what they should do in their business. I don't know because not because I don't know business. I can tell you what tactics to use in marketing and things you could try, but I'm not that person. So I don't know if something's going to work. And one of the things that really helped set me free, actually, I heard a story once, and it was from the owner of Lux Collective. He spoke on Grace Beverly's podcast, which I absolutely love. Just shout out. But he spoke on this podcast and he essentially said that him and his team went on Dragon's Den, which is the UK version of Shark Tank.
Mhm.
And he really wanted to work with Stephen Bartlett. So Stephen Bartlett from The Diary of a CEO, if anyone's heard of it. He really wants to work with this guy, and eventually they have to go through this whole process to get to the point where he invests a proportion of his money in their business, and then they kind of have this like coachy relationship. And he goes to Stephen with this idea, the guy from Lux Collective, and he says, "What do you think?" Because all he wanted out of this whole experience that he's gone through is for Stephen Bartlett to tell him what he thinks. And Stephen Bartlett turned around and went, "I don't know, try it." And I feel like that's very much what we do in the CEO crowd. It's not for me to tell someone what to do because then I'm literally crushing their creativity. I'm saying what you do, think, and believe doesn't matter. And I'm like squishing it. And that's not what community is there for. Community is there for it to be a place where people come and they thrive in their creativity. And yes, you can take advice, but don't take advice from one person. Actually, take advice from multiple people and multiple people that have the things that you want and can show you different ways of getting them based on their own creative pursuits. So I think that that's kind of an image of who we bring in is we kind of call in you're burned out by hustle culture and you're kind of sick of being told what to do. You want to get into a space where you're listening to yourself more, that you listen more to your intuition, to your creativity, and you're building relationships with people that are, like we say, like real women vibes. It's not your, well, here's 3 tips for your morning routine. It's okay, well, what does this look like for you? What does this look like in your life? Is this possible for you? Is it not possible for you? And we ask more questions and it becomes much more nuanced. So I always think it is just the most personalized membership program that you're going to get. That's essentially what we lead people through. And then we like to think that they come out the other end, should they ever choose to leave us. And we have had that happen. And with one of the girls, she messaged me and she was like, I'm really sorry, I just don't have time. I've taken on so many clients. And I was like, I'm going to take that as a win, my friend. Like, I want people to leave with so many clients, so many friends, and they know that they can come back to us if they ever need support or that space, because that's what it's about, creating a safe space online. It's allowing people to come and to flow and to go, should that feel right for them. And it's not this like incessant, like holding on for dear life. It's actually letting life unfold. And I believe that that is, I mean, life is creativity. So I believe that that all comes together in a really neat bow there.
Yeah, so this is something you said in the beginning of that, but what is kind of like the image in your head when you think of an empowered woman? Because I think it's so powerful how you said like our image of an empowered woman is a man. And like the more I thought about that, the deeper it became. And I'm just curious, like, what is the alternative of like thinking of an empowered woman, not as a man, but as an empowered woman? Like, what does that look like?
I think what you will find more in this space, if you look for empowered women, you'll see someone in a power suit that's like walking down Main Street in New York with a Starbucks and getting into their Lamborghini or hailing a cab because they have the privilege and the capacity to do so. I think we have to change what our understanding is of empowered women. And I think that the way that this more plays out in what I would believe an empowered woman to be would be people that are more speaking about feminine leadership. That
Mm,
tends to be more of the vibe that I would like to see for the empowered women. I think that the alternative is, it's almost like, do you know who it is? It's like Adele in a sea of Beyonces. It's that person that can be a boss at home and at work and take time and work on their craft. And it's not to say that neither of those women are wonderful, because both are incredible. It's to
mm,
say that they just have different ways of living. And I'm not a huge Beyonce fanatic. I know that there's the whole Beehive situation, and I love that for them, but I don't see her every day. I don't see her everyday life. It's a bit like I'm a huge Swift fan. Oh my gosh, Taylor Swift, everything. But I don't see her everyday life. She's not like on Instagram telling me everything that's going on. She's actually working on her craft and she's doing her job, as well as she's working on her creativity and bringing that into the world. And I think that that's my version of the empowered woman, is someone who is present in both whatever their creative pursuit is, whether it is their job, their business, or their home life, and that's their chosen pursuit, that they have this side of them that is fulfilled in terms of their creativity and it's what they've chosen, as well as they're able to care for themselves first and foremost, and then they have wonderful relationships with their partner, their family, their kids. That feels like the empowered woman to me. And I think as well, that's like the ideal empowered woman, because I think that we're all kind of concentrated in this world of you have to be in full bloom all the time. Like there's not a time for like being a hermit. I'm a massive advocate of being a hermit. I love me
mm.
some hermit mode. So I think that that's like the ideal aesthetic maybe that we would look to, but I also think probably the empowered woman is really messy. Like sometimes she's going to have like a yogurt on her clothes and she's not changed them since Tuesday, and that's also okay. I think that we kind of have to also break down these ideal aesthetics that we might have too, because then we kind of pedestal people and then we say, oh, you're not an empowered woman if you're, speaking rudely to your partner. And it's actually because you're tired and you're burned out and so are they, and you've said something that you didn't mean, and then you have to go back and both of you apologize equally. I still think that's empowered. So I think if I was to show you the aesthetic, it would be the extreme, but then also to be a little bit more nuanced, it's for me, an empowered woman is a woman with awareness and really significant awareness of herself as well as people around her. So a few ideas in there, but I hope that was kind of clear in terms of imagery between the two, because I think that we are sold this aesthetic of you have to be a certain way, look a certain way to be a successful or an empowered woman. Um, and I don't necessarily think that's true.
Yeah, something that you bring up is this idea of how lonely that hustle culture can be. And kind of like this idea that you're so burnt out that even when you have people around, like you're not really connecting. So, what is like the alternative to that like hustle culture burnout where you feel so much loneliness? And like, how do you go from that to really like being an empowered woman and also like being in community with others where you're like actually connecting and present?
I mean, it's like the transition from the lone wolf to the wolf pack is kind of an analogy I would give.
Mm-hmm.
It's this it's this idea that to go it alone is not the way. It's not the way that we were primally. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is absolutely not what we were actually taught to do from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that something I'm a big advocate for talking about is social media, because especially with online entrepreneurs, then we can feel so connected but be so disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
So something that I noticed within my journey and why the CEO crowd really exists is I have spent so many thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in coaching programs, at least $25,000 in the past year in mastermind programs and community programs alone. And I don't throw those numbers out to be bougie. I'm very aware of my privilege. Just to give you an idea of, I've been in all of these rooms and I was like, why is it not working? Why am I like, why do I feel like when they tell me to get in the right room that I'm in the wrong room? And it was because I would watch these hierarchical structures play out. I would watch someone on stage tell me what to do, then maybe be put in a breakout group with some cool people for 20 minutes where everyone gets 5 minutes to speak. The music is so loud. Everyone in the room of thousands of people is talking over each other, and you don't get to connect with people that way. People
Mm-hmm.
don't give people space to actually talk. And you'd be talking, and especially in these rooms, I would be talking and someone would just start talking over me about something that was important to them or that they saw in what I said. And that's because people want to connect, but it's because they feel like there's no time. So it's even the same in shorter programs. So, your 6, 8 week courses, the same thing plays out there is because you're there for a period of time and then it's over. And then you have to use energy to continue to create those relationships. So I think that how do you go from one to the other is you have to consider what is the right room for you. Because for some people, the hierarchical structure really works. Like, I'm not knocking it, it's pretty much most of the personal development industry at this point. I just noticed that it wasn't working for me because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit of a rebel. I don't like being told what to do. So there's that part of me for sure. But also there was no room for discussion. There was no room for connection. There was no room for understanding. And I think that's something that when I come back to the empowered woman being someone of awareness, I think that we take out understand it. Like we don't do this understanding piece. We don't seek to understand other people. We just have like very blanket, this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad. And that's very rarely the case. I feel like everything is a gray area because, especially with, if you look at, and I know that I know your ultimate dream, and I don't know if you've shared it here, so I'm not going to share it, but
Yeah, I say it all the time, to write
okay.
books that are adapted into film and to act in them.
Yeah. So if you look at, and this is something that's been termed as like, is this potentially problematic in the kind of series space?
Mhm.
So, especially with a lot of true crime, now kind of showing the other side, showing not only the victim, but the person who was the potential abuser in the situation.
Mhm.
We're now showing that other side in a really positive light in terms of we're giving voice to mental illness and challenges, and it's really creating tension for people because especially if you've been through, and I can't speak to this because this is your experience also, but especially if you've been through a situation of genuine abuse, then it can be really hard to try and see the other side. I know that
Mhm.
because I speak from a place of having gone through a court case myself, and it was really troubling, probably 10 years ago now. So I'm coming from a place of understanding, and I don't claim that to be understanding for everyone else, but definitely for myself. So sometimes it can be very confusing when you look at these things on TV, Netflix, online, and you're seeing all of these other sides play out, then instantly it kind of gets our back up because we've had a life experience which is different. And I think it's just very interesting because if we don't actually take that step back to understand, that's where we get very extreme views. And
Mhm.
I believe that very extreme views hurt a lot of people. So, an example I use quite often is I eat plant-based. I don't care what anyone else eats. That's not my body and that's not my choice. I live in Texas of all places to
Mhm.
not eat meat. I remember going to the first restaurant I went to in Texas when I moved here. I ate a bed of iceberg lettuce with avocado on the top of it. It was not the most divine meal, but it was everything they had. So
Mhm.
I was very grateful for it, but not everyone would see it that way. I have friends that are more extremely vegan than I am, and they would call themselves vegan. I don't personally, I don't like the term. I think it's very extreme, and I think it's been branded as something that it's not, but it's just like feminism. It's been branded as something that it's just not. And I think that that's where there's nuance of language that comes in. But I use this example all the time because I have friends that will not go to eat at a non-vegan restaurant. I have friends that don't have friends that aren't vegan. And equally, I remember having a friend a few years ago and I was vegan. She was like, I'm not going to eat at any vegan restaurant with you. You'll have to come to everything with me. I don't eat vegetables. And I was like, girl, that's your choice. Like, I always think, who am I to tell other people what to do? Because I hate being told what to do. So
Mhm.
I think it's interesting when you get into this territory of very extreme and polarizing views. And I think that without understanding and awareness, then how do we grow? So, if we really want community where we're going to grow, we have to actively look for communities where there is actually a community element. It's not just, we have a Facebook group community, we have somewhere
Mhm.
you can kind of post a very awkward synopsis of your life and hope that you get some friends out of it. Like maybe you'll say something that someone will be like, hey, I'm a Taylor Swift fan too. Like maybe you'll say something that has common ground, which is typically what community is built on. But typically people go into these communities and they try and build their own community within the community as opposed to the community being facilitated. So I
Mhm.
think that that is what we could look for should these like hierarchical structures not be working for you, because that's what I found is that they didn't work for
Mhm.
me and I had to find something different and I couldn't necessarily find it, so I built it. But I'm not the only person in the world doing this. Like, I don't claim to be. I know that I'm not. I haven't met anyone that's doing things that are similar to us as of yet. And I have been looking because we have people in other time zones, and I'm looking for someone at the other side of the world for sure, so that we can support everyone. But I don't think that this is unique. I think it's a little harder to find. And if you cannot find it, then I would like say to people, create it yourself, whether it's a business and it is monetized or whether it's just a creative group. I have a group with one of my friends who also wants to be an author. I write poetry. That's my one of my creative pursuits that I just love. And we just get together every week and we just write, and that's our community, that's our little creative hub, and we have conversation at the beginning, conversation at the end, and it's always a good time. I think that if you can't find it, then seek to create it and do it with understanding and awareness and opportunity for everyone to speak, as opposed to
Mhm.
it just being, we just listen to this person and then we just do what they say.
Mhm. I think that's such an important differentiation. And I'd love to hear like more about your membership and also like opportunities to network. Like I know you run networking events.
Yeah, so we run networking events every Monday, and it's such a gift. It's so cool because we bring together, and I don't know how we do it. I think it must be the vibe. We bring together genuinely the coolest people. It's always a really interesting conversation, and it's women that want to come in and pitch their business and get support. And I think that's where we're kind of different, is a lot of the time when you go to networking groups, people ask for support and the support is usually, I'm just looking for clients, or they get, 45 seconds to pitch, this is my business, and you don't really get to ask for the support that you need.
Mm,
But we've created a space where you talk about your business and who you are, and then what do you need support with? And we like to highlight things like, do you need speaking opportunities? Are you looking to speak at summits? Are you looking for accountability? Whatever questions that you have. Last week we had, what is your morning routine like? And then, the messages come into that person from everyone that's been in the community of, this is what my morning routine is like. Maybe they are a coach and they have a video on YouTube and they can send it and it gives them an extra view and it helps that person out. So it really is like, how do we create a space of win-win-win with the network and with the networking events? After our networking events, we do something really unique and we send all of the replay, all of the information from everyone that was at the event to our network. So if anyone kind of wider than just that call can support, then we have what we call our weekly opportunities email. And that's really powerful because we have a really high not only click rate, but view rate of our past networking events. So people are really going in and they're using them as a resource to help them source clients as well as help them source friendships, because there is a common ground that, hey, I've been to one of those CEO crowd calls and so have you. And that's what we do in our networking events. We also have quarterly networking events that we run where we invite our entire network. So they're a lot bigger than our intimate networking events cap at 25 people, whereas our quarterly events are much bigger. However, we do more of that deeper connection. So we do a little bit of training. And by a little bit, I mean a little bit. I'm talking, 15, maybe 20 minutes. And then people go into breakout rooms and actually can have conversation with each other and get to know each other and speak around a common topic and what they thought about it. Because I'm not always right. And I don't claim to be. And I think any coach that does, I think that that is a ego problem for sure. Because
mhm,
I think that after 10 years in coaching, I feel like I have a lot of experience and a lot of experience in a lot of sectors, like you were saying, careers and then
mhm,
life and then
mhm,
relationship and then sales and then business. And I've done it all. I've done it for the government. I've done it for, solo entrepreneurs. I've done it for myself. And I've met so many people, and especially 7 years in careers work for the government in a small area meant that I was working with young people in school, people from social work, people losing their jobs through redundancy, people who were unemployed for any reason. There was just so much experience in there. And I just don't think that anyone outside of you has the answers. I think they have guidance, but I don't think that they have the answers. So that's really what we strive to create with the networking events, as well as then when we look at the membership, then it's a step further, of course, because
mhm,
it's a paid product as opposed to our networking events are
mhm,
completely free. So within our membership, then everyone in the membership gets unlimited access to our networking calls. So those more intimate networking calls, we offer one a year to what we call our network members. So
mhm,
they're the women who have seen what we do, they want to be a part of it, they want to get the emails. So we invite them along so that we get to know them a little bit better too, because the more people that we know, then the more people we can refer to and more appropriately. So it's really cool for that basis. So people always get like random messages from me. I did this the other day. Someone from one of our members from Huntington Beach, she's in our network. One of the girls that was on the call had just moved there, and I was like, y'all need to connect. And she was like, it's so good to hear from you after like 3 months. And I was like, yeah, like I'm still thinking about these people and I know where they live somehow. For her
mhm.
specifically, I do a little bit more about her to be fair, but we have a lot of information so that we can really make appropriate referrals and help people. So when it comes to the membership, you can go to as many of those networking calls as you'd like, so that it's not just me keeping an eye out for you, it's you getting to do that, and you get to practice your pitch and build your confidence and try new things and ask for more support from a bigger room of people, as well as we meet on a Monday for our networking events, but then on a Thursday within our membership, where we do co-working, we do CEO coffee dates. So we just hang out. We do kind of similar to those quarterly events, a little bit of training, and then everyone gets to kind of know each other a little bit more deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And we also do a book club. We just had book club. And that is, read whatever book, come and talk about it, and let us all take part in social learning instead of, again, me prescribing this is what you should read. So it's just a lot more in flow with, I think, what many business owners need right now, because there are so many things that people feel like they have to do. And that just sucks the joy and it sucks the creative energy out of everything that they're doing, because they
Mm-hmm.
feel like they have to show up and they have to do things a certain way and they have to send this amount of emails and they have to have, this amount of videos on their YouTube channel or this amount of podcasts, and it has to look a certain way. Whereas it doesn't. It doesn't. It has to be what you want it to be. And I think that quite often in community, we can really start to find ourselves. And that's what we see in our membership, as well as, we give our members opportunities to be on our podcast, as well as they can do master classes within our community, because we don't run external master classes. Our last one actually is in May, because we did, and it's something we shifted away from because we have such a wealth of knowledge within our members. And I just thought to myself, it's so interesting because master classes are hierarchical. You can't get away from that. But why are we not talking to our members? Why are we like seeking these other external gurus to just drop in, do a session and leave, when it could be someone that is in our community that wants to practice, that wants people to know their business better, that wants to
Mm-hmm.
connect more, and we can give them the opportunity to do that. So we have a cool few other things up our sleeve that we like to do to just continue to create community. And we're always trying new things and always doing market research so that we're building what people want as opposed to what people have been told they should have. So it's a very different way of running things, but that is what our network looks like, our free network, as well as what our membership looks like kind of on the inside.
That brings up this idea. What exactly is the role of friendship for the empowered woman?
Mm, I think it's impossible to be empowered without it.
Mm,
I think it would be impossible because we need people that are on our team,
mhm,
especially when we're looking at, I'm obviously concentrating on business women, but this could be, if you're doing a really big pitch and you want your girlfriends to phone you after because you don't know how it's going to go. So you're either
mhm,
going to be celebrating or commiserating, and you need people on your team either way, because women, as a generalization, do not celebrate themselves enough.
mhm,
So we need people there when things go right to hype us up that little bit more that we're not doing for ourselves, because we're told to be humble. We're told that we should be a certain way, and this feeds into society and patriarchy, and we don't need to go so far, but we're told to be a certain way, and we need some girlfriends around us to be like, you did such a great job, that was amazing, and really celebrate us. Also, when things don't go our way, then we're very good as women at saying, it's fine. And it's not fine. We all know that it's fine, translated is it is not fine.
mm,
We then need people to hold that space for us. Now, obviously, there is the arguable point that partners and family can be those people for you, and they can, but they hold a different role. My husband holds a very different role from my friends, even though I do think that he is my best friend. I'm very blessed. If you think I'm cool, my husband is like the like a degree cooler. He's so awesome. I am just completely in love and infatuated and love him so dearly, but he does have to hold a different space because he is around me all of the time. So he sees every shade of me from when I wake up in the morning to when I'm like dying at CrossFit to, when I'm going to bed at night. Whereas my friends, they typically see either a higher energy or like a chilled out version of me, or they see like a dramatic moment. So I feel like our friends just hold different space because they're with us less time. So we typically have more energy to kind of give because we're not seeing the whole experience. So I think that our friends hold such a sacred space. And I think it's something that we have lost. And we've lost it through social media, one, because we don't need friends now. We can just go to our followers and we can feel that sense of belonging in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
And also, a lot of people are doing this personal development work because they've been hurt. And I think that that starts to grate on people to a degree that they're just like, I'll just cut that person out. And I think that personal development specifically is a niche that I come from, and a lot of coaches do. There is this pool of personal development that says if someone doesn't support you or XYZ, you should just cut them out. And I think that some people have taken that to such an nth degree that they've cut out so many people that didn't need to be cut, and that they are now effectively hurting themselves. Now, that does not apply to abusive situations, obviously, but I do think that we've gotten to a place where you can be so comfortable by yourself. And I don't think COVID helped also. You
Mm-hmm.
can be so comfortable by yourself with a book in the corner of your room with your cat. I know I am. And it does take that extra bit of energy for me to message my friends back or give them a call or go out and hang out with them. But I'm very aware that me taking those steps that take a little bit more of my energy to maintain relationships is much better than me sitting in the corner crying because I'm so lonely. So I do think that for the empowered women, friends are absolutely necessary.
What is the role of boundaries?
Oh, great question. Oh, I love this. I just actually had a conversation with a one-to-one client about this. So I have a pool of one-to-one clients. They've been with me for forever and I just love them. So we continue to work together. But obviously, now I'm very much focused on the CEO crowd. That is everything. If you ever want to hear more from me, that's where to go. But I did have a one-to-one conversation the other day about boundaries with a client, and it was so interesting because the role of boundaries, it's such a big topic. And I think that we've been taught that boundaries are very hard line in the sand. And again, I think there's something that needs more intention and awareness. And quite often people will set a really severe boundary and then they won't meet it. And they expect everyone else to meet it. And then that's where that causes frustration because they're like, I got up all the courage and I set that boundary and I said to that person, like, what would be an example we could use? If I said, I would never say this, but if I said to my husband, I don't want to eat chocolate anymore, which would never happen because I'm a huge fan, at least every day, twice a day so far. So if I'd said to my husband, I'm going to give up chocolate, he'd be like, okay. He'll still go to the store and he'll still buy me chocolate and he'll come home with the chocolate and he'll be like, I bought you this chocolate because I know it's your favorite. And then I'll be like, well, I said that I wasn't going to eat any more chocolate. And I can't believe that you went and bought me chocolate. And he did it to be nice. And because obviously that's not something I would ever do. So
Mm-hmm.
it's probably because like I have had some kind of reaction to like some kind of drama online saying that, you know, I'm a size too big or whatever, and now I've decided to ditch chocolate. Like it won't have come from a healthy place. But should that happen, then we get angry that someone else has met a previous need of ours or has done something they've always done and maybe forgotten. Like we don't have the awareness of the other side. So we set these boundaries and then we get angry because other people aren't meeting the boundaries. And it's like, well, that's your boundary to meet. Don't eat the chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
give it
Mhm.
away. Like just because it's tempting, it doesn't mean that you have to have it. So I know that was a very like random example, but it was the best that my brain could come up with on the spot, that's for sure. But I do think that boundaries can cause a lot of drama because we're not really sold on them. And then someone pushes it and then we fold and it's someone else's problem. Whereas it really is our problem. So when it comes to boundaries between people, because typically that's where we set boundaries, we don't usually, when we're talking about boundaries, it's not usually with ourselves, which is ironic, but it also is for ourselves. And it actually, even if it's with other people, it's 100% us because it's our boundary to uphold. So boundaries are hard because you have to set them and then uphold them. And sometimes you won't want to. And you have to make a decision in that moment, am I going to uphold this boundary or not? And what does that mean for my life? And then that is where we get into this kind of realm of identity. So I think
Mhm.
that boundaries go this like level deeper and it's identity. If I let this person do this particular thing, and again, I don't want to speak to abuse situations because I don't think that's my place, but if I, said to, I have a friend that struggles with her parents and they're just very judgmental of her. And she said, you can't call me fat again. They call her fat. It's terrible. I don't think that's fair for anyone to say about anyone else, but this is the world. So she was like, you can't say that to me. And then they do. And they do again. And they do again. It doesn't mean it's right because it's not right, in my personal opinion. I think that's a terrible thing to say to anyone. But it's up to her to then address, okay, well, why does this upset me? And then how much do I invite them into my life because they're going to continue to do it? Because some people after time will learn that's not okay behavior. And that comes from communication. It doesn't come from, I can't believe you did that. You're a bad person. You hate me. Why did you buy me the chocolate? It doesn't come from angry outbursts. It will always come from deeper communication. That hurts my feelings because that's not fair. That hurts my feelings because that's resulted in a lot of trauma for me. That hurts my feelings because I'm really working on this right now and you're reminding me of it and that's hurtful. I think that we need, alongside awareness and understanding, better communication. And that's where
Mhm.
boundaries come in.
Mhm. For the empowered woman, what would be examples of boundaries she could set with herself?
It's a great question. And I think that is dependent on the woman.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
think that's so dependent on the woman
Mhm.
because I could prescribe boundaries, but that's not my place. And that's again like where I
Mhm.
come from is a place of,
Mhm.
well, that's a place of awareness and understanding for yourself. So, for example, if I was to give, I believe myself to be an empowered woman, if I was to give some like rules that I live by, would that be helpful?
Yeah, just so because when you say it, I think like I had certain ideas, like maybe like if you're like on your phone too much, like maybe don't be on your phone if that doesn't feel good to you, or like but I'm not like sure if that's exactly what you meant. And I'm just looking for you to go deeper so that people, I think everyone will have their own idea, but that doesn't mean that that's like close to the same idea that you have in your mind.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, yes, to go a layer deeper, I think that for the empowered woman, her boundaries would be set by her
Hmm.
and they would be in alignment. So to come back, and I know these
Hmm.
terms are all kind of coming together, but they would be in alignment with
Hmm.
what life she wants to create. So
Hmm.
example, and this can come back to hustle culture even. If you've got
Hmm.
someone who wants to make 9 figures and they were on 4 figures last year, that's going to take some severe boundaries to reach that level of what empowerment means to that particular person. And
Hmm.
that will mean the longer hours, and that will mean probably more investment in support and being very conscious about business growth and not very much else other than probably taking care of yourself and to a degree your relationships. But if that woman's form of empowerment is success financially, then it's like, okay, well, you will be in alignment with that and your boundaries will be in alignment with that. If your version of empowerment is, what I believe empowerment is to have kind of essentially have it all. And I think that, there's a degree of we all kind of want it all. Like, let's be honest, if someone was like, here's like $1 million, a jet, the person of your dreams, the coolest family, the house in the Bahamas, and a business that's absolutely thriving, and the coolest clients ever, you'd be like, sure, of course, no problem. So I think that to a degree, I like to think that I can have it all. And I know that's not popular, but having it all to me is different than having it all to someone else. Someone else might think having it all is the nine-figure business and the kids that you're at home and present for, and that's your life. Or you have space for your friends, your family. Like, it's going to be very specific to that person. But if I was to look at my life and what my boundaries are to take care of myself. That's really important. To move
Mhm.
my body and
Mhm.
to take care of my mental health. And when those things slip, then my boundary is get back on track.
Mhm.
And things like my relationship with my husband is absolutely sacred, and we spend our Saturdays together, apart from when he goes to play Dungeons and Dragons. He's a big fan. Um, we spend our Saturdays together, and if we don't spend that Saturday morning together because he's off playing something, then we make intentional time together, because it's really important that we have time together that's not prescribed and not doing anything. It's just time that we are together.
Mhm.
And I have, a call once a week with my family back overseas. So I live in Texas, my family are from Scotland. So I call them once a week. That is my boundary there. That is more than enough for everyone. And we check
Mhm.
in maybe 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour, and that's my boundary there. So I like to maintain lots of different things,
Mhm.
but that's my version of empowerment, is that I can maintain all of those things. Those things are all equally important to me. So they maybe don't look exactly balanced. Obviously, I spend more time with my husband than I do with my parents, especially because they're overseas.
Mhm.
But it's what's important for you in that particular moment too, because life changes. You'll go on holiday, for example, or go on vacation, and you're going to kind of change probably what your boundaries are. You're probably not going to work. You're probably going to relax on the beach and have some more self-care time and have some more like meals out, and they'll be delicious and bougie and probably calorific, and that's cool because that's a particular season. So I think that it's just this idea of consistent awareness. If I could gift anyone anything, I would like it to be just more awareness of what you do and why you do it. And if someone's looking into that particular piece of work, then I would look into conditioning. That's kind of the term. If you want to go a little bit deeper into psychology, it would be looking at human development systems. Those would be two things and two places that I would go to kind of just have a better understanding of why you maybe are the way that you are and why you have the particular behaviors that you have. But then it's also to focus forwards and think about alignment. Like, what is in
Mhm.
alignment for you in your life, in your creativity, in your business? I would say those things are really important when it comes to working out what the empowered woman even is for you
Mhm.
and what are your boundaries.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks, Katie. It was so fun.